Welcome to the Boosted Volunteer Podcast. We share the stories of dedicated Booster Club volunteers and the tools and strategies they use to run successful booster clubs. We also have sought-out experts on fundraising, volunteer management, and running nonprofits to share best practices. Hosted by Robin Eissler and Evan Eissler, you won't want to miss these great episodes that will help you run your booster club like a champ.
Hi, and welcome to the Boosted Volunteer. Today, we're talking with Jessica Enneking, who is the co-president of the Lakeville South Band Boosters. In her spare time, in her day job, she works in the nonprofit space for Fraser, working in the mental health and developmental needs area. Jessica, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, we've had the opportunity to communicate back and forth over the last half a year or so as you've been working with the Band Boosters. Tell us a little bit about your background and your professional role, and then how you got started with the Lakeville South Band Boosters.
Sure. So I professionally have worked in the nonprofit sector for, actually, this will be 21 years at my current organization, and have always wanted to give back, or have always given back to the community in some way or another. And since my two boys were little, which I have one now who's graduated and another one who's a junior in high school. But since they were little, I've been very involved with the parent-teacher organizations and been on the boards there, both in elementary school and through each of their middle school. And then once we got to high school and they were both in the band, I volunteered right away with the high school band program and just fell in love with how it ran and with the directors there. Started getting involved right away. When my oldest was a freshman in high school, that was COVID. And so band looked a little different, as did every program at school. And so I didn't get too involved that first year, but when he became a sophomore, I started to really get involved with some of the special events and learn more about the program. Then his junior year, they just got really involved with their fall competition show and the summer marching band and started running some of the special events that we have. And then when he was a senior, my younger son was a freshman. And so they were both in the marching band and both very involved. And my husband and I became even more involved. Then last year, he had graduated in 2024. Then my husband and I decided that we would really take the leap and be co-presidents of the Band Booster Club, as there was some turnover happening at that level. So we have been heavily involved since then. Well, since the beginning, but really since then. And always looking for ways to build on the solid foundation that was set out before us. So really enjoying it so far and just excited to keep moving forward.
It's great that you had that opportunity to be introduced to the program and then grow into the role. Not everyone gets that chance. Some people get thrown into the fire. How do you think that prepared you for taking over being president?
Yeah, well, I think you get to know the people first, the other band parents. I think the first little bit, you see the activities that are going on and you see how people are involved. And band has always been one of those activities where parents are really inviting, the directors are really inviting, and it's a very welcoming place. We call it's our band family, even though there's like 600 of us. And
family.
Right. It's a large Thanksgiving dinners.
Right.
But it feels warm. You get a lot of warm fuzzies. The first few years, it was like dabble your toes in. You get to see how everybody interacts and engages. And you start to see that there is a need to get involved. And it feels good to help out. And I will say, I felt that way since forever, being involved when the kids were even like in childcare when they were really little, going and helping out. You feel that way just always. And so as they get older and you look for new ways to be involved and help out, and it's just fun to stay connected with your kids when they're in these big kid activities. And there's real things that you can do. Like my husband is the heavy lifter for the Band Boosters. So he's building all the props and moving all the tables and all the things that he needs to do as the heavy lifter. And I'm doing some of the other things and the organizing, and we're a great team. And it's just really great to be able to give back and stay connected. And I think when you can show your kids that it's important to give back, it means a lot to them and it's good modeling for them. I actually did my master's thesis on parent involvement in the schools and how it correlates to academic performance, and probably no surprise that there's a high correlation between the two. And so I've always just been wanting to be involved and connected. And yeah, it's just good for my relationship with my kids too.
One of our coach used to say, she would say, do the boosters kids play more? And she said, yes. But it's not because they're the boosters kids. It's because they're the people that show up and put in the time, just like their parents. So just like you mentioned, it shows them how to put forth the effort and be successful in a role. I think it models that really well.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about your program with the size. I know you mentioned 600, number of students, if you can, like your budget, some things that you work on.
So we have a fall competitive marching band that performs a field show, and we are actually in our 10th season of fall competitive marching. And so we've been celebrating that a lot this year and highlighting on social media, actually, each show. So we're highlighting those, and that's been exciting. I think our fall band started with some families who were interested in doing a little bit more. Our main director was at parade competition. One of the organizers of that parade competition in another city had said, I think that your band would do really well in the field show competition. You should really give that a shot. Our director was like, I don't really know what that means, but okay. So the next year they formed a field show band. It had maybe, I don't even know how many, maybe like 80 to 90 kids in it, maybe, and a few guard members, color guard, and they put on their first show. It was great. They had parade uniforms. Then 10 years later, we're doing our 10th field show. We're on like our third set of uniforms, and we've got 140-ish kids, I think, in it this year. But our color guard is awesome. It's got, I want to say like 40 members, I think, in it. And the band has grown. We now do a winter guard program, a winter drumline competitive program. We still do our summer marching band program, and then certainly concert band activities throughout the year. We do traveling. So we've done a concert band trip to Colorado. We've done several trips to Hawaii to march in the Pearl Harbor Day parade. We actually have a trip to Hawaii coming up in December, where the summer marching band will be marching again in the Pearl Harbor Day parade. And we've gone to Dublin a few times and marched in the St. Patrick's Day parade in Dublin, which has been really cool. We're very fortunate to have a lot of opportunities presented to us. That said, to make all of those opportunities possible, we have to do a lot of fundraising. So we have a lot of special events, a lot of fundraising. And I will have to say, Booster Hub has been amazing.
Glad to hear that. I think I saw a quote, something it said, it's changed your life. So
it has, because the communication, it used to be where we would have to send everything through the directors, and then the directors would have to send it out to their list of families and maybe students. But now everybody's in Booster Hub. And so I can just go in and throw a tag on and send it to whoever I want to, and they just get it. And if I want to send out an announcement or a quick chat or whatever, it just goes. I've got students are messaging me and they're saying, hey, I'm looking for this, or I can't find that, or can you help me with this? And it's been great. Yeah, it's been life-changing, for real.
Well, we absolutely love to hear that. So that's what we built it for. We hope that it does some life-changing. Well, you mentioned some special events, doing all this fundraising. Tell us a little bit about those. You know, all of our programs have kind of unique situations where they're able to raise the money to do all these awesome things. So I'd love to hear about what goes into all of that.
So we have a huge event in the fall. It's called Band Breakfast Bonanza, or BBB. It kind of changes a little bit every year. But we typically there's always a breakfast. So it could be a pancake breakfast or waffle breakfast or something. Typically, we have the jazz bands are playing. We've got games and activities, bingo, etc. It's a nice community building event. We also have a huge silent auction. We go around to different businesses or community partners and we ask for donations of silent auction baskets. Then the silent auction happens, and that's a really big fundraiser for us. We do like prize drawings or raffles, which is fun. And then the event culminates with a indoor marching band concert. So we take the summer parade band, performs all of their parade songs on stage. The fall competition band performs their field show on stage. They don't do much of the movements, but they do all of the songs. And then there's a few other kind of fun songs that are performed as well. And even the guard gets up with their flags, sometimes rifles, and they spin as well. So that's a really fun end to the event. And then one of the raffles that we have is a pie in the face. And so at the very end, there's raffle drawing, ticket drawing, I guess, where the ticket that's pulled with a name, that person gets to come up and throw a pie in one of the director's faces. So that's always fun.
Just that as an incentive on our fundraisers, because everyone always wants to throw a pie at the director. Not sure why, but it's a very big incentive.
Yes. Yep. It's super fun. So BBB is really fun. This year, we're trying something brand new too. We just like to pile it on, I guess. But a couple weeks after BBB, we are hosting our first ever craft fair in the school. So we've got about 75 to 80 vendors already signed up and committed. And so we've got local artisans and handmade gifts and lots of crafters coming in, and they'll be setting up their booths. So right now we're working on our marketing strategy to get the word out so that now we have all of our vendors. We want to be able to get all of our community in to be able to shop and take advantage of all the awesome things that are there. So we're excited for that because that's going to be the first weekend in November. And in Minnesota, that is a big weekend for deer hunting. And so we're very excited because when traditionally the men go deer hunting and the women can go to craft fairs. And so we're excited to rope all of them in. And if it's vice versa and we got the men coming in for the craft fair, we love that too. So we'll have something for everyone. So we're really excited for this craft fair to have that start this year. We're excited to see where that goes.
How do those work? Do the vendors pay you money to be there? Is there a percentage, or do you do concessions, or what are your money makers there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we actually have a couple crafters that are very connected with the board. They've got kids that have gone through the program or are still in the program, and we've been taking advice from them. And what they have seen and what we are doing is that vendors will pay us to have a booth space. That is it. So they pay us, they register, and then we accept them into the craft fair. To be honest, this first year, we're pretty much accepting most vendors. We're not too picky because we really didn't know what kind of response we would get from the community, but it's been overwhelmingly amazing so far. So people are paying to come in. Then if they want to, they're responsible for bringing in their own table and chairs and booth. But if they want us to provide them with table and chairs, then that is available for them to rent for, I think we said like $10 or $20. I can't remember what, but so they'll pay if they want us to provide that. So that was another great way for us to make just a little bit more money and not necessarily have to provide tables and chairs for everybody. So that's exciting. We have thought about providing some concessions, but we're also waiting to see what kind of vendors we're getting in because we've been contacted by some local fast food establishments to see if they could come in and sell their food in the space themselves, which to us sounds great. And so we're working with them to see if we can get a little bit of a kickback on what they sell. And then we don't have to do anything, which sounds even better. So, yeah, we're excited
without doing a lot of work is right. What challenges have you faced or had to overcome during your time in the booster and then now specifically in your leadership role?
I think one thing that has been a challenge or something we've had to figure out is what's the role of the boosters versus what is the role of the band directors. And I know, my husband and I know that we've been involved with the band for a short amount of time, and the directors have been involved with the band for a longer amount of time. And they have all this experience with music and how competitions work and what band should look like. And it's their vision. And so how do we fit into what their vision is? So when we started on the board 2 years ago, we have 4 directors. And so we sat down with them and we said, what's your vision for the band? Where do you see it in 10 years? And then what's our role as the booster presidents? How do you want us to support that vision? That really helped because they were able to lay out, this is what we would love to see. And then that helps us understand, where do we focus our fundraising efforts? Where do we focus our time? If they were like, oh, we just want to do this and stay the course and not really venture into anything new, then we're good with that. But if they were like, oh, we really want to go do this trip this time and we want to expand and go do, Bands of America competitions across the country, then that gives us a different goal. That was a really cool thing to be able to talk through right at the beginning. One of the things that our booster board has done in the last year was when we joined the board, we didn't really have a lot of positions. So there was a president, a treasurer, and a secretary. And then anybody who came to the booster meetings was kind of considered to be on the board. And so when we took the president role, we decided that we really wanted to make the board a board and have specific roles so that the presidents didn't feel like we had to take everything on ourselves. So we have the president, which is co-presidents because my husband and I share, and then the secretary and the treasurer. But then we also have director of special events, director of programs, director of fundraising. I feel like there's one more director of communication. And so each of those directors on the board, they're not responsible to do all of those things, but they are the ones that are the point person for each of those things. So it might be that any of us on the board are helping with communication or social media, Booster Hub, whatever. People take ownership of something rather than just assume that, oh, the president's just going to do it or be responsible for it or tell me what to do. And then I'll just kind of be a minion in all of this. Instead, it's I'm responsible for this topic or this role, and I'm going to now delegate to all these things, and then everything's going to roll up to me, and I'm going to report back to the board. So that actually has been really helpful to implement some structure into the board. And then we have general booster meetings for just the members, which is everybody that's in the band and all of their families. So
I always find that defining those roles gives them accountability, but it also tells them what to do. Just a lot of people don't engage because they have no idea what they're supposed to be doing. So when you define those roles more, people can latch in and get started. And I love that you had to sit down with your band director. So many boosters miss that step. There's always this miscommunication between the coach or the director and the boosters. And so aligning the vision, and I used to have a sit down with our coach every season. Where do we want to be? Here's the resources we have. What do you need? And it just made the season so much more smoothly.
Yes. And I've been involved in other activities where the coach or the school contact was not, they maybe weren't used to having that level of partnership. And so they really didn't know how to engage the boosters. And so the relationship just really wasn't there. And it was just like the school person just kind of ran the show, and the parents are just kind of floundering like, oh, I don't really know how to help, so I'm just not going to do much. Or it just really wasn't as structured as what it could have been. So
definitely helps defining those roles.
Yeah.
Well, what's been your favorite moment in your role or your favorite accomplishment that you've achieved so far? Sounds like you still got a lot going on.
Yeah, I think honestly, so this year is our 10th fall competition field show year. And when we were sitting in one of our board meetings, maybe a couple months ago, and somebody casually mentioned that this was the 10th show. And a couple of us, like, our ears perked up and we went, what? The 10 years? And it was just like, we got to do something with this. This is a big deal. And I think like one of the directors was like, really? Like, this is a big deal? And we were like, yeah, this is huge. Huge. Yeah. So they were in the middle of ordering show shirts that all the kids wear and that the friends and family can order to support the band for the show. And we were like, stop the presses. We're going to have a 10 years logo and it's going to go on the shirt sleeve. And by the end of that meeting, like, we had this whole marketing plan. And I think the directors were like, we were not ready for this. But it's so cool because now, like, our hashtag this year is Decade of Passion and Pride, because typically we always talk about having passion and pride in everything that we do as a band. And so now it's Decade of Passion and Pride is our hashtag. The logo for the 10 years is 10 years of passion and pride. And it's like, it's everywhere. So it just has really, the whole 10-year celebration has just been really fun so far. And we've been doing the social media push for it has been really fun. We've been doing some interviews with some alums and with the directors, and there's been some Instagram reels, which have been kind of fun. So yeah, that's been really fun.
I love that. I love engaging the alumni too. That's one of the most overlooked resources in the booster world.
Yeah.
I've been telling everyone, you should have an alumni volunteer night so that I would go back and work in my old role if I knew everybody that I used to work with was going to be there. So I've been trying to spread that.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah, you get back together with the band, right? With your old friends that you used to.
Yes.
Well, I'd love to wrap up our episodes, Jessica, with whether or how you were involved as a student when you were in school, whether you played sports or did fine arts, and then how did that impact you?
So when I was in school, I played the flute and I played volleyball and basketball. I grew up in a very small town of like 600 people. And so we did not have as many opportunities as what my kids have now. I think my son, who graduated a couple of years ago, he had almost 500 people in his class, which that was my whole town. And so he's had a lot more opportunities. We didn't necessarily have a marching band growing up, but we did have concert band and I loved it. There was a booster club, but I never really knew as a student what that was. It was just like a bunch of parents who got together and maybe did some things. But now I feel like it's just so much more organized and like focused, and it's fun. It's fun being on the booster board.
I think the boosters have had to get more organized because so much of the fundraising has shifted to the volunteers. Budgets have been cut. And so that's why we see much more active boosters than we did 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for all that you do and all that you give back to your band and your program. And thank you for joining us here on the Boosted Volunteer.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Robin. It was great to chat with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be looking forward to all your social media, seeing what the Lakeville South Band is doing. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of those trip photos and things like that.
Me too.
Great.
I'll be taking them.
Well, have a great time. And thank you again.
Thank you.
The Boosted Volunteer is brought to you by Booster Hub. To find out more about Booster Hub and how our app can help you improve communications, increase engagement, raise more money, and manage your booster club responsibly, visit www.boosterhub.com. And then make sure to search for Booster Club Podcast in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Booster Hub, thanks for listening.